Did Gandalf's silence speak louder than his spells? Most fans remember his big battles, facing down the Balrog, outsmarting Sauron. But there was another contest, quieter and deeper, happening all along. It was a test between Gandalf and Aragorn. Why did Gandalf, the one who brought the Fellowship together, never just tell Aragorn to take his place as king? Was it respect, or was there something else going on? Tolkien gives us a clue. The hands of the king are the hands of a healer. That line isn't just about Aragorn's skills. It's a hint that there's a much bigger plan at work. What if every time Gandalf held back, every time he waited instead of giving an order, he was setting a test? We all watched Aragorn refuse the ring at Rivendell. But what's really strange is this. Gandalf, the most powerful one there, never commands Aragorn, never tells him to claim the throne. He always lets Aragorn make his own choice. At the Council of Elrond, Gandalf could have spoken up. He could have pushed Aragorn forward, but he stays silent. He lets the broken sword and Aragorn's quiet courage do the talking. This isn't just a small detail. It's the secret to how Middle-earth's greatest leaders are chosen. The Valar themselves once said, "Guide, never command." Have you ever felt that weird tension between Gandalf and Aragorn? You weren't imagining it. There's a secret there. A hidden story most fans miss. Was Gandalf's silence a sign of wisdom? Or was it something closer to manipulation? That's the question. And before we're done, you'll see this old mystery in a whole new light. Ready to go deeper? Let's find out what Gandalf was really up to. Think of Aragorn's reluctant words. "I do not want that power," murmured in the half-light of Rivendell as the ring gleams cold nearby. That moment, which seems so spontaneous, actually represents the culmination of a lifetime's testing, a crucible forged by Gandalf's subtle hand. Step back and look at the pattern. Throughout Middle-earth's history, the failures of kings and the curse of Númenor hang over Aragorn's family like a storm cloud. When Gandalf says, "The blood of Númenor is all but spent," he isn't just reciting genealogy. He's naming the ancient wound, the trauma that leaves Aragorn hesitant to claim what's rightfully his. Follow Gandalf's journey and you see the board laid out. Weathertop, haunted by Isildur's fall. Moria, shadowed by the fate of Durin's line. Each step seems engineered to force Aragorn to reckon not just with the dangers before him, but with the ghosts of his own ancestry. Why test someone born to rule? Superficially, it might look like Gandalf is ensuring Aragorn's courage. But the real story, woven into the deeper mythology, is that Gandalf is attempting to heal the cosmic rebellion that doomed Númenor itself. This is bigger than one throne. Aragorn is asked to redeem an entire civilization's broken relationship with power. And yet, why doesn't Gandalf simply say, "Be king"? Would a direct command work on someone carrying 3,000 years of failure and pride? Or would it backfire, reinforcing the very curse it tries to break? Beneath the surface, Gandalf's test goes beyond questions of bravery. He's quietly reshaping what it means to be king in Middle-earth. Perhaps his greatest magic isn't his staff or fireworks, but his purposeful silence. The stakes, in the end, aren't only about succession. As Tolkien once wrote, the Númenorians of Gondor were proud, peculiar, and archaic, and I think are best pictured in the Byzantine Empire. Gandalf isn't just restoring a lost monarch. He's working to heal a wound running to the heart of the world. Imagine the scorched earth where Isildur claimed the ring, then see Aragorn standing on that very ground 3,000 years later. Film adaptations dwell on Isildur's personal downfall, but Tolkien's legendarium pulls back the curtain to show how a spiritual rot infected the whole line of Númenor. Akallabeth, the Downfallen, is more than a story about one man. It's a song of the entire civilization's collapse. At Weathertop, it's no coincidence that Aragorn is forced to confront the ringwraiths on the site of his ancestors' failure. Gandalf's role here is subtle. He doesn't set up the confrontation directly, but through his movements, warnings, and perhaps the guiding hand of fate, he enables this symbolic trial. Tolkien leaves the reader to wonder whether providence, more than wizardly plotting, guides these moments. When Aragorn sings the Lay of Luthien, his voice doesn't just echo through the hills, it claims the legacy of Beren with every verse, mile by mile. Gandalf remains quiet through this scene, his silence less an absence and more a deliberate benediction. He lets Aragorn claim his story. Contrast this with Elrond's words, Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself. Elrond frames destiny in terms of lineage. Gandalf's famous riddle, all that is gold does not glitter, hints instead at transformation and hidden virtue. Two distinct philosophies, and Aragorn must choose which to embody. The test at Weathertop echoes a subtler pattern. Recall Gandalf's earlier support at Sarn Ford, a place where the boundaries of the Shire are watched and guarded. While Tolkien never spells out a moment of revelation there, Sarn Ford stands as a symbol of indirect challenge and watchful guardianship, a motif that Olorinn, Gandalf, employed even as a Maya in the West, testing messengers and heroes by placing them in crisis, never by decree. Let's clarify. Although Sarn Ford doesn't mark the literal revelation of Aragorn's heritage, that role falls to Elrond in both Aragorn's youth and again at the Council of Elrond. The analogy is apt. Gandalf's pattern, both in Valinor and Middle-earth, is to shape events indirectly. All of which raises a tantalizing question. Did Gandalf, in some sense, want Aragorn to face the Nazgûl at Weathertop, recognizing the gravity of that location? Or was this the story's deeper fate at work? What would have changed if Gandalf, at the gates of Meduseld, had called Aragorn Estel, his childhood name, meaning hope? He doesn't. Instead, he lets Aragorn enter Theoden's hall with no comforting word or reminder of heritage. Gandalf's silence here nudges Aragorn to become Strider in the eyes of others, a man who wins trust not by blood, but by action. Visualize the slow swing of Meduseld's doors, the glint of torchlight on Andúril, and Gandalf's quiet whisper, "Your own wisdom must decide." The vacuum left by Gandalf becomes Aragorn's crucible. Gandalf's mentorship is a paradox. He builds Aragorn up with praise, and then tests him by stepping aside, sometimes withdrawing support at the very moment confidence peaks. Helm's Deep provides the clearest example. Gandalf brings the dawn, symbolically crowning Aragorn, then promptly takes control, challenging him to reclaim authority by earning it, not by fiat. Most readings see Gandalf as Aragorn's greatest champion, but what if, at key moments, he functions as the last obstacle, the one force left to overcome? At the Black Gate, Gandalf, capable of commanding armies, simply waits. The burden falls on Aragorn to lead with voice and sword alone. This is where the wizard's true brilliance emerges. Gandalf's refusal to exercise his full power isn't just humility, it's intentional pedagogy. He holds back, creating the space for greatness to bloom in another. Picture Aragorn in Meduseld's Golden Hall, a king in all but name, standing before a throne that is not yet his, with Gandalf quietly receding. That absence isn't abdication. It's the final, silent nod. This is your moment. From Sauron's overthrow in the Second Age to the showdown with the Palantír in the Third, Gandalf's guidance of Aragorn is never explicit, but always influential, like a current beneath the surface. While the films show only a fleeting scene at Orthanc, Tolkien's appendices make it clear. Gandalf had anticipated this trial for years. Imagine Orthanc battered by wind, the Palantír cold and heavy in Aragorn's hands, Sauron's mental assault roaring from within. Gandalf watches, not as a rescuer, but as a lighthouse keeper, his staff a faint light in the tempest. When Gandalf pretends to sleep as Aragorn claims the Palantír, it isn't inattention, it's a calculated absence. Would Aragorn have dared if Gandalf had been awake, silently judging or advising? We can only guess. Yet the effect is clear. Aragorn must act from his own volition, not by permission. There is a beauty in this. The courage Aragorn displays is the product of years, perhaps decades, of carefully cultivated resilience, a slow burning fire stoked by Gandalf's trust and restraint. Here, Tolkien's own words clarify Gandalf's method. His gift is to kindle hearts to courage, not to issue commands. Every encounter with Aragorn reflects this ethos. Compare the spectacle of Aragorn's coronation, cheers echoing, banners unfurling, with the intimacy of the Houses of Healing, where kingly authority is found not in a crown, but in a gentle touch and a whispered word. The films may linger on the glory of the throne, but Tolkien's narrative is clearest in the sick room. Elessar is not merely a title, but a vocation of healing. When Gandalf calls Aragorn Elessar at the Black Gate, let your mind's eye drift instead to the moment when Athelas is crushed in the king's hands and hope is restored to Faramir. Gandalf's approval is quiet, manifest not in speeches, but in the opportunities for service he allows to unfold. Aragorn's journey, Estel the hopeful, Strider the wanderer, Elessar the healer, is a deliberate sequence, each name signaling a transformation, each phase a necessary test. Gandalf's hand is always present, guiding by absence, fostering growth through challenge. There's something almost unsettling about how Gandalf withholds the coronation until Sauron is defeated and the work of healing has begun. Tolkien, in early drafts, considered crowning Aragorn sooner. The final version insists that kingship must be earned after the greatest wounds are healed. In the quiet room of the Houses of Healing, as Aragorn kneels beside Faramir, Gandalf watches from the shadows. This is not just a test of leadership, but the true final exam. Can the king heal, not just command? In this, Gandalf's experiment reaches its peak. Trace, if you will, the journey of Aragorn, from Estel, the child of hope, to Telcontar, the king who chooses the name of the road. In that progression, something quietly miraculous unfolds. We see not just a man's ascent, but Gandalf's invisible curriculum for leadership, an education written not in lessons, but in silences, in the invitations to choose rather than to obey. Telcontar, Strider in Quenya, is not a title bestowed after death, nor a crown handed down through unbroken bloodlines. It is a name Aragorn claims in the living moment of his coronation, a declaration that the greatest journeys do not end at the throne, but begin there, on foot, with purpose. Picture Gandalf in that high moment, not as a distant wizard, nor as a puppet master pulling strings, but as the mentor whose final lesson is to step back. In Tolkien's telling, it is Gandalf who places the crown on Aragorn's head. The films may show him kneeling, as if the world's weight has at last shifted. But the gesture, however rendered, is always one of reverence, the teacher bowing before the student who has outgrown the need for guidance. We are tempted to imagine Gandalf as a subtle manipulator, the architect of destinies. Yet his true brilliance is in what he does not do. He conjures spaces, not answers. He offers trials, not ultimatums. Over and over, he withdraws, creating the conditions for Aragorn's choices to matter, for agency to bloom in the shadow of uncertainty. To call him a master psychologist is almost to diminish him, but the word captures something of his method. Gandalf's art lies in patience, in the delicate craft of letting others become who they were meant to be. And in his letters, Tolkien sketches Gandalf's mission in simple but radical terms: to counter Sauron's tyranny, not with force, but with freedom, not by replacing one domination with another, but by nurturing leaders who refuse to dominate at all. The great conflict, in the end, is not just Aragorn against Sauron, good against evil. It is Aragorn wrestling with the long shadow of Númenor, with the wounds of ancient pride. Healing that wound, restoring the very meaning of kingship, is, Tolkien suggests, the truest victory of all. Imagine, for a moment, a world where Gandalf simply gave the order, "Be king." Would that have freed Middle-earth, or only replaced one mighty will with another, just as relentless, only better dressed? Look then at the Valar, themselves changed by time. Once they summoned the elves with proclamations. By the Third Age, they send the Astari as guides, not rulers. Gandalf's mentorship of Aragorn is a small echo of this grander transformation, a story of authority learning to let go. Perhaps the greatest quest in Middle-earth was not the destruction of the ring, but the quiet, stubborn work of restoring a soul, and with it, reimagining what it means to rule. For Gandalf, the question was never simply whether Aragorn could become king, but whether kingship itself could be redeemed for a world on the brink of change, which of course returns us to ourselves. In this story, what is asked of us? What, in the end, does true leadership require? The drama of Denethor's pyre, raging, desperate control, finds its antidote in the soft authority of Aragorn's healing. The contrast is not just about hero and villain, but about two worldviews. One seeks power by force, the other by service and restoration. It's the difference between the retribution of the Old Testament and the mercy of the New. Gandalf's mentorship is a spiral staircase. Each challenge returns Aragorn to confront the ghosts of Númenor, each trial breaking the old patterns a little further. Step outside Middle-earth, and Gandalf's approach becomes a living lesson in leadership for our own world. How often do we see leadership confused with domination, command, or imposition? Gandalf's method, leader as coach, asks us to imagine another way. From Weathertop to the Black Gate, Gandalf's influence steadily fades as Aragorn's confidence grows. There's no magical shortcut, no wizard left to carry the burden. This is intentional. When the curtain rises on the Fourth Age, the world is left with only the kind of leadership that can survive without external guidance or magical crutches. What would our world be like if those in power understood Gandalf's secret, not to dominate, but to nurture the potential in others? Picture it, Andúril in your hands, the crown of Gondor before you, and no one left to tell you what to do. Only your own conscience, and the lessons you have learned, remain. This is the test Gandalf creates for Aragorn, and for all of us. To Aragorn, Gandalf often seems cryptic, even frustrating. But this obscurity is essential. It is in the silence, in the absence of orders, that true self-determination takes root. Perhaps Tolkien's most radical idea was not simply to destroy evil, but to revolutionize what it means to rule. Kingship, recast from domination to service, becomes not just a fantasy, but a vision for our own society. It's tempting to think Tolkien's ultimate message is about finding the right person for power, but he invites us to look deeper. Perhaps the real challenge is to transform power itself. When the magic fades, the last wizard departs, and the rings are all gone. Only this new model of leadership remains, a legacy forged by Gandalf's long experiment. The question for Middle-earth, and for us, is whether we can carry it forward. In these uncertain times, Tolkien's vision still shines. The truest magic isn't found in spells or rings, but in the invisible art of nurturing others, of stepping back to let greatness arise. So, what do you believe? Was Gandalf's silence the highest wisdom? Or was it a perilous gamble with the fate of the world? Share your thoughts below, and let the conversation continue.